Willow Creek Estates looked like the American dream on a postcard, manicured lawns rolling out like green carpets. Houses painted in the exact shade of beige the HOA approved last year. Kids riding bikes and helmets that matched the community color palette. But step inside any driveway and you'd feel it, the invisible leash. Every blade of grass, every holiday light, every mailbox sticker had to bow to the rules. And the woman holding the leash was Karen Whitaker, our HOA president for 7 straight years. She smiled like a church lady handing out cookies while her eyes tallied every sin against community standards. Grass over 3 inches? $200 fine. Mailbox not taupe enough? Citation. American flag flying past the exact 7-day window? She'd personally tape a violation notice to your door at dawn like it was the 4th of July and you were the enemy. I used to be the guy who kept the whole circus from burning down. As volunteer compliance coordinator, I tracked every report, reconciled the fines before the county auditor showed up, and made sure our paperwork satisfied the state HOA laws so we didn't get slapped with a class action from angry neighbors. Karen loved to brag at parties that Willow Creek had the cleanest record in the county, thanks to me. Then came a monthly board meeting in the pastel-painted community center where the coffee always tasted like defeat. Karen tapped her gavel with the drama of a reality TV judge. Before we talk boring old violations, she purred, "Let's start with inspiration. My daughter Madison has been creating content that truly embodies Willow Creek's spirit. Creative, vibrant, and 100% on brand." She clicked the remote. The projector lit up and there was Madison, neon bikini, choreographed dance to a butchered Take On Me remix. Fake tears streaming under a ring light seizure. Hips popping like she was auditioning for a music video instead of youth engagement. The room exploded. Grown adults in khakis clapped like trained seals. "So expressive," someone squealed. "That energy," another echoed. I didn't laugh. I was mid-sip of lukewarm coffee when the screen flashed, and I just blinked. Once, twice. Around me, the laughter died in pockets as eyes slid my way. Karen's lip twitched like she'd smelled something foul in her own perfume. She tilted her head. Fake jovial smile locked in place. "Well, Alex," she said, voice dripping honeyed venom, "I figured someone in your position on the compliance committee could appreciate a little youthful creativity. After all, you're always the one lecturing us about following every tiny rule." I shrugged, polite as a funeral director. "She's expressive. That's for sure. No applause. No chuckle. Just the last scrap of dignity I still owned." 15 minutes later, the email hit my inbox. Reorganization of committee roles, effective immediately. I didn't open the attachment. I already knew. By the time I stepped outside, the neighborhood group chat was buzzing. He didn't laugh. Someone typed, "Alex is always so serious about everything." Karen herself cruised past my house in her golf cart with the vice president riding shotgun, announcing to the wind, "We're decentralizing redundant functions for efficiency." Everyone knew what that meant. My compliance duties, every violation log, every fine reconciliation, every city report prep, stripped away like I was some rookie who'd parked on the wrong side of the curb. She didn't even have the spine to tell me to my face. Just nodded like a game show host awarding me a lifetime supply of mow your lawn or else. My new assignment? Taking minutes and tracking community feedback. I was supposed to sit quietly in meetings I used to run and smile while they discussed whether plastic flamingos counted as seasonal decor violations. I walked home that afternoon with my jaw locked and my pride trailing behind me like a torn welcome mat. But I didn't scream. I didn't call an emergency vote. I didn't beg. Instead, I opened my email client and started forwarding every single violation report that landed in the old compliance inbox. Mrs. Jenkins' flag left up 1 day too long. Mr. Patel's garden gnome 2 inches over the height limit. The new couple on Maple Lane whose Christmas lights were still blinking on February 2nd. I forwarded straight to Karen with the cleanest, most helpful subject line imaginable. Per updated delegation of responsibilities. Looping you in for your review and next steps. I CC'd the shared folder that time-stamped everything. I sounded so respectful, it could have been framed in a courtroom. Hi, Karen. Just confirming whether I should proceed with the notice for 142 Oak or defer to your expertise. Let me know. Thanks. She never replied. Not once. I wasn't hiding. That was the beauty. I was doing exactly what the new chain of command required. No more. No less. She wanted the spotlight. I handed her every single lumen of paperwork hell. And while she ignored the growing pile, I watched from my quiet corner of the cul-de-sac, calm as a librarian in a burning building. Because sometimes the heaviest weapon in suburbia isn't a scream. It's a perfectly polite forward button. By the second week, the system ran like clockwork. Anything tag violation, fine city compliance, or a state report got the same treatment. Polite forward. CC archive. Subject line, so neutral it could star in a hostage video. Karen was too busy planning her next community spirit event, some kind of long-known beauty pageant, to notice the bomb ticking in her inbox. She posted selfies from the event on the neighborhood app with captions like, Unity through approved decor, while 3 houses down old Mr. Jenkins received his 3rd flag citation in a month. I forwarded that one too. Hi, Karen. Resident reports continued non-compliance on flag protocol. Looping you in per revised structure. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. The whispers started small. Janine from the book club cornered me at the mailbox. Are you still handling the violation logs? I told her the truth. That's no longer part of my role. Her eyes darted toward Karen's McMansion, where the president was probably rehearsing her next TikTok speech. Max from the golf cart patrol asked about the updated vendor forms for the annual audit. I shrugged. Not sure who handles that now. He nodded too slowly and walked away without another word. Slack threads, well, the HOA version on the app started dying mid-conversation. Calendar invites for compliance reviews stopped appearing. No one wanted to be the first to say it out loud, but everyone felt the hum beneath the perfectly trimmed hedges. Something was off. Karen still hadn't answered a single forwarded notice. She'd skipped the bi-weekly standard sync twice, claiming she was focused on the big picture. Meanwhile, legal notices from the county started pinging the shared folder, gentle at first, then stamped with deadlines and phrases like, non-response will be documented. I cataloged every silence like a librarian in a burning building. No rage, no leaked screenshots, just the slow, grinding inevitability of paperwork. Karen believed her new role was ornamental, sitting in meetings using phrases like strategic community alignment while sipping iced lattes and posting about progress over process. But compliance isn't a trophy. It's a ticking clock. And I'd handed her the keys to the clock factory with no instruction manual. One afternoon, I caught her at the community mailbox, face pale, flipping through a stack of printed notices like a gambler reading bad cards. Her hands weren't steady. She looked smaller, older, like the weight of everything she'd ignored was finally sitting on her chest. I didn't say a word. I just walked past with my dog on the approved length leash, nodding politely. The best part? I wasn't the villain. I wasn't sabotaging, gossiping, or grandstanding. I was honoring the chain of command, and the chain was starting to snap. In the next board meeting, Karen waved her hand like she was swatting a mosquito. Compliance is important. Sure, she declared, but let's not pretend filling out the same 3 forms every quarter is what builds community spirit. We're here to serve progress, not paperwork. She clicked to the next slide on her PowerPoint monstrosity titled Efficiency Through Elimination. Bullets about lean ops, frictionless standards, and something called vibrant enforcement that sounded like a TED Talk delivered by a woman selling essential oils from her hot tub. She looked proud, arms crossed, voice syrupy with charisma. These audits, we spend thousands of volunteer hours chasing our tails. I say cut the fluff. Trust the team. Focus on value. A few heads nodded. A few others glanced at each other. I just took notes, expression neutral, because on the inside I was grinning like the devil on a slow boil. She kept going. We're not here to serve process. We're here to serve people. She actually said it like she was Moses coming down the mountain with stone tablets that read, "Screw documentation." Behind my calm face, my mind was already calculating the next fallout point. The county hadn't escalated publicly yet, but they were close. And Karen was up here treating state-mandated filings like a seasonal allergy, annoying, ignorable, definitely someone else's problem. She didn't realize she'd become the problem. The silence developed a pulse by the third week. It was in the way the air shifted when Karen's golf cart rolled down the street. Less swagger, more friction. Her metaphors grew stranger. One day, she told the board we were a rocket ship strapped to a cheetah chasing neighborhood harmony. I didn't blink, just forwarded another urgent county compliance review with my usual clean note, looping you in per updated responsibilities. Let me know if you need support. The messages from the county changed tone. No more gentle nudges. Now, they came stamped with dates, deadlines, and the chilling line, failure to comply will result in escalation. Karen's inbox had to be a war zone. 30 red flag threads stacked like cordwood, each topped with my polite little bow. She could have built a bonfire with the warnings I'd handed her, but instead she let them rot. She started closing her office door at the community center more often. The glass wall fogged with her own hot breath, and whatever crisis she was pretending didn't exist. Her assistant Tessa looked like she was aging in dog years, used to chirp good morning to everyone. Now, she barely made eye contact. I saw her once in the communal kitchen, just staring at the coffee pot like it held the secrets to survival. People noticed. Actual concern, not just whispers. Mark from the golf cart patrol asked me quietly if I'd seen the latest compliance tracker. I told him truthfully, I'm no longer looped into those updates. He frowned. Huh. Weird. No one's touched it in weeks. I said nothing. Entropy was doing its job, slowly, then all at once. One afternoon, I caught Karen at the printer, face ashen, shuffling through papers like bad tarot cards. Her hands trembled. She looked like the weight of every unchecked box was finally pressing on her ribs. And still I said nothing. I wasn't the villain here. I was just present, clocking in, clocking out, repeating my quiet ritual, forward, CC, archive. The storm felt close. You could taste it in the static of the perfectly trimmed lawns, in the way neighbors avoided eye contact at the mailbox, in the pause between every forwarded email and the deafening silence that followed. Karen had built her throne on ego and selective blindness. Now, both were crumbling. She still performed in meetings. Of course. Compliance is important, she'd say, waving her hand like swatting a mosquito. But let's not pretend it's what drives community spirit. More nodding. More cautious chuckles. She was performing and they knew it. But they also knew better than to challenge her. Karen didn't like dissent. She liked applause. Behind my poker face, I was already seeing the cliff edge. The county auditors weren't circling anymore. They were landing gear down. And Karen was treating state filings like optional suggestions provided you wore enough pearls and spouted enough LinkedIn buzzwords about vibrant enforcement. One manager raised a hand cautiously. Are we still filing the annual state reconciliation? Karen waved him off. We'll handle it if it becomes an issue. That phrase, if it becomes an issue, did all the heavy lifting. Like the laws of the state were optional as long as you had the right smile and the right golf cart decal. I leaned back just enough to see the reflection of her PowerPoint in the window behind her. It looked like a warning label on a bottle of snake oil. I kept my mouth shut. She wanted to lead. I'd follow her all the way to the edge. It landed on a Tuesday morning at 9:07 a.m., the kind of overcast suburban day that already felt like trouble brewing. Karen rolled into the community center with her usual loud laugh and Vinnie cold brew, humming whatever corporate mom playlist passed for motivation in her head. 10 minutes later, Tessa stepped into the boardroom during our weekly status meeting and handed her a thick white envelope, the kind that doesn't carry birthday cards. Tessa looked rattled. Karen gave her that tired smirk she reserved for people who didn't amuse her and tore it open right there at the head of the table like it was a lunch menu. I watched her eyes. They didn't scan the page so much as freeze, like a mouse realizing the cheese came with a trap. Her face drained color, not enough for the oblivious to notice. But I saw it. Throat tightening, jaw clenching, left hand gripping the table an inch tighter. She blinked, folded the letter, and set it down as if it hadn't just detonated a landmine beneath her designer sandals. "Well," she said, forcing a grin, "just the usual county overreach. They're behind on their own audits, and now they want to rush hours." Her voice was light, dismissive performance mode. "I'll circle back on this. Let's keep going." Next on the agenda, approving the new Gnome height standards. Nobody moved. The air had changed. A few folks glanced at me like maybe I'd give them a clue. I didn't. I just took notes. Calm, steady, detached, because I already knew what the letter said. I'd seen its kind before. The phrasing never changed. Imminent noncompliance detected. Failure to submit required filings by deadline will result in escalation. Not a suggestion. A throat clear before the guillotine. The team fumbled through the rest of the meeting. Voices subdued. Karen nodded too fast, laughed too loud, tried to pivot to quarterly wins, but her hands never left that folded letter. She tapped it absent-mindedly. 1, 2, pause, like she was trying to Morse code her way out of accountability. After the meeting, she vanished into her office and shut the door with more force than usual. I walked by an hour later. Her cold brew sat untouched. That alone said everything. The first board inquiry came quietly. An email flagged discussion item for Thursday. Audit timeline irregularities. 2 sentences. Polite, professional, deadly. Karen didn't react publicly, but her cadence changed. Less slow, smug drip. More clipped phrases. Thursday's board meeting was virtual. Cameras on. Suits in little boxes. Radiating white-collar suspicion. Karen opened with her usual confidence. "We've had some minor turbulence, just temporary bottlenecks in compliance reporting. My team's a little behind, but we've got it covered." My team, the same team she'd gutted 6 weeks ago when she told me I was better utilized elsewhere. Now she was clinging to it like a life raft made of shredded state codes. Board member Carolyn leaned forward, sharp as a guillotine. "And what precisely is the holdup, Karen? Last year we were ahead of schedule. This year we're dancing with breach territory." Karen smiled, but it was the smile of a woman try to hold in a scream. "There's been some lag in the chain of execution. We've had handoffs, a bit of churn. Transitions take time." Carolyn repeated. "Flat, handoffs." Karen replied quickly. "Team turnover. We're training up fresh talent. It's a growing pain." No one looked at me. They didn't have to. Every person on that call remembered the reorganization, remembered the smug announcement, remembered how Karen had stood there chest puffed, cutting through the org chart like it was an art project. Now she was pretending that team still existed. Another board member chimed in. Did the previous compliance lead transition out? Karen hesitated just long enough. We realigned some roles. Strategic reallocation. It's under control. And then it happened. Subtle but sharp. Eyes shifted. They landed on me, the demoted compliance guy, sitting 2 rows back with a legal pad and a blank expression. Not speaking. Not flinching. Just there. And that's when the turn began. Because silence in those rooms is currency, and when no one defends you, That silence becomes an indictment. Karen wrapped with vague assurances and a promise to deliver a full timeline next week. She signed off, slammed her laptop like it had betrayed her. Through the glass, I watched her rub her temples, jaw clenched, eyes staring at nothing. She knew. They all knew. And now the pressure was real, structural, legal. Paper trail pressure. The woman who'd smirked at my supposed irrelevance was sweating under the weight of tasks I used to finish before my second cup of coffee. The net was tightening. Everyone could see it. The emergency board meeting was set for 8 a.m. Sharp. No preamble. No pleasantries. Just a calendar invite marked mandatory audit response review. The kind of subject line that made even the golf cart patrol show up 10 minutes early. I was there too, notebook in hand, eyes neutral, the ghost in the machine. No one had asked me to attend, but no one dared ask me to leave. Karen was the last to enter. She looked like she'd jogged there from a tax shelter, collar wilted, sweat darkening the edges, skin that pale, waxy hue of someone who just realized the rules changed and she no longer held the dice. In her hand, a sealed envelope. Thick, off-white, federal tone you could feel in your bones. The room went silent as she sat. She didn't speak right away, just set the envelope down like it was radioactive, took a long sip of water, and glanced around with a forced smirk that fooled nobody. "How about the latest from the county?" she said, voice trying too hard to sound casual. Bit of an overreach. Honestly, bureaucracy doing what it does best. No one laughed. She tore the seal, fingers stiff. The paper crinkled in the dead-still room. She unfolded the letter and began to read aloud. The first sentence hit like a fist, following multiple unanswered notices. Our office has determined the association is in systemic breach of state HOA compliance procedures as a result of executive-level inaction and sustained negligence. Karen stopped. Her lips moved like she wanted to read ahead silently, but her throat locked. Eyes darted back and forth across the page, hunting an escape that wasn't there. Color drained from her face so fast it looked like someone pulled a plug. She looked up, barely, and tried to speak. "They're overstating." "Keep reading," Carolyn said, cold and flat. Karen forced the words out, each one a pebble in her throat. The letter laid everything bare, missed deadlines, failure to respond, unresolved discrepancies in the annual filings, lack of documented remediation plans, and worst of all, direct attribution. Every task, every email, every responsibility had been reassigned to her name. The paper trail I'd built was now a noose, tightening with every syllable she read. I didn't move, didn't blink, just sat there calm and composed, invisible in plain sight. And yet every person in that room understood exactly what had happened, how one woman's ego had turned process into ashes, how the quiet one had held the line, and how that line had been severed at the source. When Karen finished, the silence wasn't shock. It was confirmation. This wasn't new. It was official, signed and sealed. She set the letter down with trembling hands, chest rising and falling too fast. Oxygen turned traitor. Eyes darted for backup and found none, only tight jaws and narrowed gazes. She wasn't the leader anymore. She was the subject of investigation. She tried once more. The county they've determined that her mouth opened and closed. Sound caught like a swallowed bone. Then it happened, not dramatic, not loud, but unmistakable. Her chest tightened, jaw clenched, nostrils flared. She gripped the table edge like the letter had reached through the paper and punched her in the sternum. The room went so still I could hear the tiny mechanical hum of the AC vent. Her face cycled through colors no president wants to wear. White, blotchy red, ashen blue around the temples. No one moved to help. Not Carolyn, not the vice president, not the junior board member who used to laugh at all her long and om jokes. They just watched the collapse of a woman who built her tower on bravado and buzzwords, now choking on the dust of her own negligence. The letter sat in front of her like a verdict. Systemic negligence. Failure to comply. Direct attribution to the president's actions or inaction. The county had traced every flag, every delay, every procedural breakdown right back to her desk. Her decisions. Her inbox. Her ego. No scapegoats. No intern to throw under the bus. Only the silence of accountability. She looked up one final time, scanning faces for a lifeline. The eyes staring back offered no handshakes, no lifeboats, only cold calculation already recalibrating for a future without her. Even Tessa had stopped taking notes. I didn't smirk. I didn't nod. I didn't need to. I just watched, unmoving, satisfied in the way only quiet justice can satisfy. Because the truth didn't need a speech. The paper did all the talking. She had built her whole throne on perception, charisma, volume, and charm. In the end, it wasn't a scream that took her down. It was a whisper, 27 unread emails, each more urgent than the last. A whisper in the form of one reassigned task at a time. A whisper that became a storm. And now there was nothing left to do but watch her drown in the silence she once mistook for submission. Turns out the only joke was letting her think she was untouchable.